Hey team, it's Mikey Millions once again, and in this video, we are going to discuss an important aspect of options pricing and assignment risk in preparation for the poor man's covered call and theta farm strategies. And full disclosure, I also want you guys to stop asking dumb questions about why you're not getting assigned on your cash secured puts and covered calls when the stock goes 3 cents past your strike with 20 days left until expiration. To understand assignment risk, you must understand the concept of intrinsic versus extrinsic value on options pricing. So without further ado, let's lick this lollipop. The first thing to understand is that options prices come in two pieces, intrinsic value and extrinsic value. When you add a contract's intrinsic and extrinsic values together, you get the contract's price. So let's work backward and break these down. The first piece is intrinsic value. Intrinsic value is the actual value of an in-the-money contract if expiration were right now. So for example, if Apple is trading for $390 and you have a call at the $385 strike, then your call is $5 in the money. If expiration were right this second, your call would be worth precisely $5, and therefore, your call has $5 of intrinsic value. However, in-the-money options are priced higher than their intrinsic value, and out-of-the-money options, of course, don't have any intrinsic value at all, because if expiration were right now, out-of-the-money options would expire worthless. The next piece explains where that additional price beyond intrinsic value comes from. The other piece is extrinsic value. Some people also call this time value or theta value, but I like the term extrinsic value because it contrasts well with intrinsic value, so that's the term I'll use. This is the additional price of a contract beyond its intrinsic value. It's all the other stuff that makes a contract worth more than its intrinsic value, like time to expiration, implied volatility, volume, and liquidity, that sort of thing. Let's go back to our Apple example. If you've got a call at the $385 strike, and Apple is trading for $390, we already said that you have $5 of intrinsic value. But if you want to sell this call, is the price going to just be a $5 per share premium? No, of course not. This contract will cost maybe $7 per share premium, unless you're trading the contract with just minutes to expiration. So if $5 of that premium is intrinsic value, the other $2 is extrinsic value. The options market is pricing in an additional $2 of share appreciation when considering the stock's volatility and the amount of time to expiration. Stocks that are highly volatile will have higher proportions of extrinsic value than stable stocks because they're more likely to make large moves, and therefore options sellers demand higher premiums. After all, if you think a stock is going to go flying higher, you aren't going to sell a covered call on the cheap. You're going to demand a lot of money for it. And just to give you a real example of this math, let's look here at Nikola calls expiring in mid-December, so about 100 days from when I'm recording this. We see the stock price is $50.65. The $40 strike is $10.65 in the money, so it has $10.65 of intrinsic value. But is it trading for that price? No, it's trading for $18.45. That additional $7.80 is extrinsic value. And you can also see that the deeper in the money you go, the greater the proportion of intrinsic to extrinsic value there is on the contract. You see the $30 call with $20.65 of intrinsic value, but it is priced at only $24.10, and therefore it has only $3.45 of extrinsic value. Conversely, the $50 call has only 65 cents of intrinsic value and $13.15 of extrinsic value. As you can see, the moneyness of the contract affects its proportions, but the math remains the same. And that, quite simply, is how you calculate intrinsic versus extrinsic value. Great, so what do we do with this? First of all, I keep hearing variations of, why don't I sell an at-the-money cash-covered put for a big stack of premium, and if the stock goes down below my strike by just a penny, I'll get assigned right away, and then I'll sell the shares for a tiny loss, but walk away with the premium. That will balance out to a big gain. For example, look at what hometown homeboy 50 wants to do. He wants to sell SPY puts at the $284 strike, which was at the money when I took this picture, and he wants $405 for it. And he wants to get assigned the shares right away if SPY drops down to just below $284, so he can sell the shares at like $283.88 for a loss of $12, and he wants to walk away with the other $393 in free money. If you're one of the people trying to break the void between dimensions with this pro gamer move, I have bad news for you. A lot of people have this plan, but they screwed up right here. This idea that you will get assigned right away if the stock goes in the money. Why will you not get assigned right away like this? The answer is what we just talked about, extrinsic value. Options buyers want to make the most money possible. That's why they buy options. And if you execute a contract, you'll benefit from that intrinsic value, but you abandon the extrinsic value. You don't get the premium back when you execute a contract. The option seller keeps it. The amount of money you get by executing an options contract is just the intrinsic value. The extrinsic value stays with the options seller. Let's explore that further. Think of yourself as an option buyer. You just bought a SPY 284 put for $405. SPY went down to 283.88. Would you execute that put? Would you cash in that contract and force someone to buy shares from you for $284 each, and then buy back those shares yourself for $283.88 so you can get that $12 gain difference? Hell no, you wouldn't. You bought that put for $405. Why would you cash in this $405 coupon and turn it into $12 of cash value? Like I said, you don't get the premium back when you execute a contract. If you execute this put, you just spent $405 on the contract, turned it into $12, and lost the rest. That trading is trash. And go through some self-reflection. Do you call your broker and execute your put contracts as soon as they're in the money? No, you don't. If you bought a put and wanted to get rid of it, you wouldn't execute your contract so you can capture the intrinsic value and say screw the rest. You would sell the contract to someone else. That way, you sell off the $12 of intrinsic value, plus you're selling all the additional extrinsic value to someone else. This is why you're not getting assigned as soon as your cash covered put goes in the money. Whomever you sold the put to is either still holding it, or they're selling it to someone else so they can sell the intrinsic plus extrinsic value of the contract. They do this instead of executing the contract, in which case they would only walk out with the intrinsic value. You are not getting assigned because there is extrinsic value on the contract, and no one wants to throw it away. So this begs the question, when can you get assigned? There are a couple of circumstances. Circumstance number 1, there is no extrinsic value on the contract. This would imply that there is no time value or volatility left for the stock to move. IV is priced in. Theta is priced in. When could such a situation exist? 5:30 p.m. on expiration day, when options legitimately expire. The market closes at 4, but options expire at 5:30, so after hours prices may still affect extrinsic value between 4 and 5:30. 5:30 is the real target time for all extrinsic value to disappear. Because there is no time left for the stock to move, there is no extrinsic value left on this contract, and so anyone holding in the money options will execute. In fact, if you're holding a long call or put, brokers will, as required by law, execute any in the money contracts for you, unless you tell them explicitly not to. Situation number 2. Tomorrow is ex-dividend day, and if you add the dividend to the intrinsic value of a call, it exceeds the total value of the contract. For example, if someone is holding a call with $10 of extrinsic value, but the next day is ex-dividend on a 15-cent dividend, then they're likely to execute. Why would they sell off that $10 of extrinsic value if they can execute the contract, take the shares from you, and then be entitled to $15 in dividend the next day? Keep this in mind when you sell covered calls around ex-dividend date. You're likely to get assigned if the intrinsic value of the contract plus the dividend is higher than the call's value. And finally, situation number 3. If you sell a very deep in-the-money contract, you might get assigned. This is what happened to Henchmen. There is very little extrinsic value on really deep in-the-money contracts, with deltas above 0.95. You can actually see this on Robinhood, where you'll occasionally see that there's only 1% or less of extrinsic value. Options buyers might be willing to remove the headache from their lives and just execute the contract instead of holding the long call in the money, since it's basically the same situation anyway. I have had this happen to me twice in 8 years of options trading. And that about sums it all up. Intrinsic value is how far in the money your contract is. Extrinsic value is any additional value on top of the intrinsic value. And you're probably never going to get assigned unless you hit one of the 3 situations we just talked about. Understand this, and you're well on your way to becoming a subject matter expert on assignment risk. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you all got something valuable out of this. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time when we take the next step in preparing to plant our Theta farm.